On February 4th, 2022, we lost GilvaSunner. For those not in the know, GilvaSunner was a YouTuber that would post actually high quality rips of mostly Nintendo OSTs on YouTube for our listening pleasure. And I mean almost everything. Kirby, Mario, Luigi's Mansion, Super Smash Bros., Mario and Luigi, Zelda, Donkey Kong, and so on. I cannot understate how convenient and fantastic having all of the music you loved on YouTube at the touch of your fingertips and for free. This was especially helpful for video making since the soundtracks were never publicly or commercially available, making this the only real way of getting them. But sadly, if you're here, then you know what happens next. In the years and weeks leading up to February 4th, GilvaSunner would get hit with multiple copyright takedowns, and while the first few never really stopped them, the most recent ones proved to be the most fatal. Every single last one of the soundtracks featured on the channel were now wiped, thanks to Nintendo of America, which at first was believed to be false due to some copyright takedowns in the past being falsified. Sadly, YouTube stepped in and officially stated that the official Nintendo of America was the one to file the copyright complaint and took down everything. To say it was devastating was an understatement. We've had GilvaSunner since almost the very beginning of the 2010s and was there with all of the soundtracks that we loved and cherished, and to have that piece of not only history, but archival of all of these pieces of Nintendo music just gone, it just hurt a lot. Now, this is not to say that it's completely hopeless. Multiple channels have since risen up to fill the void left behind with somewhat limited success. It's just not the same having years upon years of archival backlog, and to just start all over again is a major daunting task. Most give up or just fail to continue, or some just get taken down once again. It's just not the same, and it's really hard to get to the point where Gilva was at. And another casualty of the wipeouts was the music extending channels, which for you content creators out there was extremely useful for video production and just overall enjoyment. If a song was too short or you wanted to look up a seamless endless loop of it, boom, it was there. They too suffered the same fate, most notably Brawl BRSTMS5. If all of that wasn't bad enough news, here's where I come with a jackhammer. So remember when Nintendo officially shut down the Nintendo's Creators Program? That really dumb program where content creators could sign up to team up with Nintendo to earn money off Nintendo content? Yes, you really needed to sign up to a Nintendo MCN if you didn't want to get a copyright claim or a strike, and you were subjected to Nintendo's horrible terms, which in summary were just bad. So years after the fact, in 2018, they ended the program after nobody really wanted to sign up, you know, and they replaced said program with nothing. They actually pulled a good move and let us upload videos up to YouTube with guidelines as to how they would allow us to do so. Among these guidelines, there was one that sticks out, specifically in quotations. However, you may not simply upload or live stream an existing Nintendo video, gameplay footage without your own creative input, or a copy of content created by someone else. For example, mere copies of Nintendo promotional trailers, tournaments, music soundtracks, gameplay sequences, and art collections are outside of the scope of the guidelines. This could be one of the reasons why they continuously take down music channels. They simply have the copyright and they have the right to do so. While it is in their rights, it's still frustrating and saddening because there really are no alternatives to find the official soundtracks. Nintendo has made a limited selection of music available on CDs and some streaming services, but like I said, limited. The tracks for overworlds or just specific themes other than the theme song of said game aren't usually made available, and it doesn't even apply to all games. It's just specific ones, so it's very limited. So essentially, Nintendo really wants you to carry your Switch around, plug in a headset and listen to it that way. I shouldn't need to explain why this is just impractical, and the fact that I can just jump to that conclusion is just ridiculous. And it's not that we don't want to give Nintendo the money or support things officially, they just continuously refuse to make it accessible for the general public, and thus making us turn to not supporting Nintendo means. The solution cannot be any simpler than this. We've literally continued to let them know, but when people do the thing they so hate for us to do, then they suddenly act shocked like we did such a thing. They're an outlier when it comes to this. Companies like Square Enix, Sega, and Capcom all publish their soundtracks on places like Spotify or even YouTube, as was the case with Square. They make it accessible for consumers to consume, thus make money directly from that. It's really that simple. So why does Nintendo continuously refuse to make them available? Well, quite simply, because they can. They know what kind of power they hold, and they know how popular these soundtracks are. So they hold them hostage until they choose to release it, and when they do, they get a ton of money and exposure. Quite simply, it's just greed. They know that they hold the power of nostalgia, and they know people want to spend money on them. But by holding them hostage, they know that when they eventually release it out in limited quantity or in a limited capacity, people will always flock towards it like it was food or something. This was the same case for Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and is now the case for the Virtual Console library. Nintendo has really gotten greedy these past couple of years, and they will only continue to do so. They don't respect us as consumers. They just see us as cash cows for milking whenever they need to increase their bottom line. The heart and soul of Nintendo, the real magic that we still sort of get with the games and used to see, still lies with their developers. They are the real Nintendo. Nintendo corporate completely disrespects them too. Do you think that developers or musicians want to see their creations being held back like this, so people can't experience them until Nintendo decides they can make money from them? No, I don't think so, and that's the sad part. It's not just us that are losing, it's the creatives at Nintendo, the artists, the developers, the musicians. Their work stays hidden, and sometimes you never really get to see it. What do you think we've never seen Mother 3? This is why archiving is important. Things will get lost to time, and that's just how life works. You can already see that with the amount of lost media, and even in video games. Old games and new games get lost to time, either because they get disconnected from servers, like in the case of Sonic Runners. Luckily, that game was resuscitated by fans, or just never see the light of day in other countries like Mother 3. There are countless other examples, but at the end of the day, that's why it's important to archive all of these things, so we don't permanently lose them. The internet has been a huge aid at keeping these things in circulation. Nintendo continuously threatens that by taking down music, ROMs, or just fan games. So I plead with Nintendo, please make these things available again. Music on streaming services, or hey, even just release CDs over here. I'm pretty sure people will still buy CDs. Make your Virtual Console available on Switch to have that massive library of classic games. And hey, you can still have the Nintendo Switch Online thing, but have it as a bonus for signing up. Like, hey, you can spend $20 a year and you get this massive library of games included in an instant. Like, make it an incentive essentially. Give people a reason to get it over just getting online access and cloud saves, because I guarantee that's what most people are after. And of course, just stop being so greedy. Like, I know you have to make your money, every corporation does so, and you can't pay back the production fees and all that stuff if you don't make money, but just be more pro-consumer, really listen to people, and you might make some impressive power moves, and hey, more people will give you money for that. People like to support companies that actually care about the consumer, but this is all hope at the end of the day. I hope that Nintendo one day actually opens up and listens, and it's not like Nintendo's all bad. Nintendo makes good games still, and they're usually very open when it comes to a delay, and they explain why, but the negatives they commit will always outweigh the good that they do. But if they just stop making these mistakes, they can be such a great and even amazing company to support. But that's just wishful thinking. But I hope I'm proven wrong one day. One day.